Welcome to the 100 Master Coaches series featuring master coaches from around the world. Let's journey together on this 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Benita Stafford-Smith is a Master Certified Coach, an accredited Coach Supervisor and a certified systemic team coach. Overall, Benita has proudly coached over 5,000 hours with hundreds of clients spread across 3 continents. Having played a number of roles at ICF Global Committees, Benita is currently the chair of the ICF Global Board for Credentials and Standards. Now on to the show.
Hello, and welcome to the 100 Master Coaches series. This is Coach Mel, and today my special guest is Benita Stafford-Smith from Muscat, Oman. Can you give her a big round of applause and welcome her? Welcome to the show, Benita.
Thank you, Mel. It's my pleasure to be here.
How is Oman? Just give us a glimpse of the beauty. We've had some conversations in the pre-show about how beautiful it is. Tell us a little bit more about this lovely place you live.
It is absolutely a beautiful, amazing country. And interesting enough, the tagline for Oman is "Beauty has an address."
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, we are, Muscat in particular is squished in between the mountains and the sea, and lined with palm trees. So it's like a resort. Is the only way to explain it. It's very
I'm already imagining. Wow. Okay.
beautiful. Yeah,
Definitely a place to be. And I know that you're actually, is it the founder of ICF in Oman? Is that true?
that's absolutely true. I'm really proud to say that, actually. That was quite a journey. I arrived in Oman in 2007, and of course, no one had ever heard of coaching. But yeah, that's just the way it was. So the education started, and in 2015, we got 20 members, 20 coaches. Yay! Launched a chapter. Yeah, it was quite a journey, and it continues. I mean, the journey continues with some absolutely amazing coaches and absolutely amazing people taking care of ICF Oman.
So I know that you are originally from Canada. That's what you mentioned before in the pre-show. And you've been in Oman for the last 13 years.
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about that coaching journey that has taken you obviously to many places, and of course Oman's one of them.
So my coaching journey has been amazing. I don't know a coach who doesn't say that. Coaching is such an amazing profession. But I started coaching when I was in Canada. Started a practice there. I had been I went from technology sales to coaching. It seems like a funny spin, but c'est la vie. This is life.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, and so I started my coaching practice in Canada, and so how I got to Oman is it's okay. I'll share that. Is it okay to?
Oh, please, love to have that story. Yeah.
So I was a single parent all my life, and my son graduated from university. I decided, okay, it's my turn. So I decided that I would work internationally.
Yeah.
Had never heard of Oman, didn't know where it was, what it was about. But as a coach, I believe in placing intention. And I had an intention to work internationally. But also as a coach, I think it's important not to get attached to the results and to let it come to you rather than try and force it and push it and, make it hard work.
Yeah.
And voila, I ended up in this absolutely beautiful country and have been here for 13 years through a series of coincidences. But again, as a coach, I don't believe there's any such thing as a coincidence.
Right. A little birdie told me that it was perhaps intentionally for 1 year first. How did that kind of extend to the extra years, if you don't mind us
It's
peeking
just,
into that.
it's just such a beautiful country, and it's so different than Canada. Canada's very cold. It's a beautiful country also.
Yeah.
I'd lived there all my life, and it's very, very cold. And here I was in this beautiful, I will call it a paradise. And I had an
Yeah.
absolutely fabulous job coaching,
Yeah.
which I love to do.
Yeah.
And pioneering that. I like to pioneer also. It's one of my favorite things in life to do. I like pioneering things. And so it was beautiful. Here I am in this beautiful country. I get to pioneer coaching.
Yeah.
Life is good. So one year turns into another year, turns into another year. And you look back and you go, wow. Have I really been here for 13 years? But 13 glorious years, I'll say.
Yeah. It does definitely has the address written there with beauty, right? You were saying before. I'm just very curious, Benita. You did share that you were from a different industry before you went into coaching, right?
Yes.
Could you share a little bit about how that transition happened for you?
Yeah. It sounds mysterious, from
It definitely
technology
is.
sales.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yes, and in particular, I was in the Unix world. So it was, very, it was very analytical, very male dominated. It was a lot of fun. I loved the technology industry. Also, I worked in that industry for about 15 years.
Wow.
But, I'd had enough. It was great. I loved it while I was doing it and was successful. But, you start to get restless and you start to get a calling for something else.
Yeah.
I was actually on an airplane coming back from Atlanta, Georgia, actually, where I had been meeting some clients. And I was coming back to Canada, and I was reading an article that said, have you got a coach? And I'm like, what is this coach thing? I read this article about this new industry called coaching, founded by Thomas Leonard. And I thought, that looks so interesting. I'm just gonna, have a look at that. And I had a peek and another peek and another peek. And soon enough, I signed up for my coach training.
One too many peaks there. And signed up. Okay.
It just evolved, it was just, it's a fascinating industry. And my major in university was psychology. I've always been fascinated by people. And, when you work in sales, people are pretty fascinating also. I worked in pretty high-end technology sales for General Electric. So I met some really, really fascinating people. And I've always been fascinated with people. So the coaching thing was just perfect. Like, oh yeah. Well, and I'm so glad that was I couldn't have done it earlier. It was a new industry then. It was in the early 90s.
Yes. And many of the guests that have come through the show, Benita, have mentioned about that magazine. I'm just now so curious. It's like, oh my gosh, this little ad has impacted, shall I say, infected quite one too many of these crazies. And these crazies now go out there and impact the world. It's like amazing.
It is. When I also, as a coach, I honestly, one of my philosophies is when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So of course that magazine, I was ready, and the magazine article came at the perfect time.
Yeah.
The world is a pretty amazing place, and it will unfold if we let it. If we let it.
That is the caveat, right? If we allow that to happen in our lives, it's like when we work with our clients, it's the same thing, isn't it? They have their free will to choose. And that, I think, is the beauty of coaching.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I also don't think there's such a thing as a wrong choice. It's just a choice.
Exactly.
See where it goes. There might be a better choice you'll make next time. But it's not wrong. You'll always learn something. There's always something in it.
Yeah, and every choice leads to a certain type of adventure. I just love what we are saying right now, even, right? It has led you to Oman. It has led you to staying It has led you into even starting ICF in Oman. And of course, you've seen other stuff that happened through that journey, impacting life around the world as well. If you were to put it all in those years in numbers, how many years has that been, Benita?
That I've been coaching.
Yeah.
A very, very long time.
Okay.
I've been
So we'll
coaching-
just,
I have been coaching for 30 years.
wow. And so it's just befitting that I ask you this next question. We have that 3 key insights that we would like to distill from you, Benita, from your 3 decades of coaching. Maybe one for each.
One for each decade. Good idea. So for decade number 1, everything changes. Everything will change.
Oh, wow.
That's the best insight. That's the good news and the bad news.
Yeah.
It will change. So just don't get too attached to your ideas and your thoughts and your opinions, and it will change.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That's for the first decade to think about. And for the second decade is that our clients are our teachers.
Wow.
Yes, they will teach us amazing things. We're aware and listening and respecting our clients. They will be our teachers. And the third thing is that life is an absolutely amazing journey. It is a journey, and my insight is just hop on and go for the ride. Because remember, everything will change. Kidding.
It goes back again to number 1.
Absolutely does.
No refunds,
Hop on.
Enjoy the journey. Get going. Yeah. And it's funny because I am one who really loves being on rides, outdoor, going into those theme parks. I love it. And the thing that I hate most is when I know it's coming to the end and it's got to have that last loop, right? And then, it kind of slows down. You're like, oh, I don't want to get out. And then there's another beeline of people trying to jump in, right? And you're like, no, I want to go one more round. And it feels like that. It feels like that with life, isn't it? Like what you said, if you hop on to that journey, and just allow that to bring you through that. There is no right, no wrong. You're in it, and it's how you respond to it and choose along the way. Powerful.
But like we always say in coaching, you've got to start. You've got to hop on. And it's the same thing in coaching. You can have all kinds of plans and all kinds of ideas, but at some point in time, got to hop on. Right? That's the thing that most people forget, is that you have to take action.
Very nice. And what do you say to those who just want to fold their arms and observe from afar? Right? It's like, it's okay. I just want to watch while it happens. Then I get the understanding from a different perspective, and then I'll consider to dip my little toe next, right?
Yes, then I say, good for you. That's excellent. If that's what works for you, then that's what you do. That's hopping. For some people, that's hopping on.
So it's just a different way. For some, they would hop on that way. And for some, they would hop on a different way. That's beautiful.
And isn't that what makes life so interesting? Is that we're all different. How boring if we were all exactly the same. Right? It's what makes life so fascinating.
So with that, Benita, I'm going to ask you about that bravest step that you've taken as a coach. Do you have that brave story that you want to share with us?
I think for me, the brave story is coming to Oman. I've been thinking about that. I mean, I had no idea where I was coming. I'd never heard of this country, but I didn't know where it was, or what I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I think that was a blessing, actually. It was a blessing not to know. it's an Arab country. If you look on the map, Oman is this little country. We're surrounded by Saudi, Yemen, and you're thinking, really? Really? That's where I'm going? But it doesn't do it justice. And I'm glad I didn't think about it a lot. It was the right thing to do. It was a big leap of faith. It was a huge, huge leap. But it felt right. And that's, sometimes it just feels right and you have to do it. See what happens. You have to hop on, right?
Absolutely. It sounds like I had a bell coming in. It says, ding, it's time to hop on.
Come on for the ride. You got your ticket?
Beautiful.
There was a job waiting for me, and that's something, you can't beat it. Here's a job. Come here, work here. There's a job. Here's your plane ticket. Okay, I'm in. Right?
I'm just curious because I know quite a number of people who would say that would be so crazy, right? Because it's not planned out all the way. Some people like to have that fullness of the picture before they jump full in, right?
Many people told me this before I left. Don't worry. I heard it. Are you crazy? You're a woman going to an Arab country you don't even know anything about? Yeah. I knew I wasn't crazy, so I was okay.
So with that attitude of exploration, with that open heart, is there any other thing that caused you to choose this path?
Yeah, I had been a very responsible person all my life. A single parent, brought my son up. He finished university. I had no help from his father. I did it all by myself, financially, time-wise.
Well done.
And it was great fun, but it was my time. I'd done my duty.
Got it.
And I'm not that, it was a hard duty. It was great fun. It was really a fabulous journey also. But now it was my journey. There was a big wide world out there. And I just wanted to have a peek.
Yeah. And I love what you just said about it's my time. And you and I know it's the permission that we sometimes don't give ourselves. Exactly. We've probably met many individuals that say, "Oh no, I'm stuck here because," and rightfully, we know some of their reasons, right? It could be finance, it could be the big job that they've worked all their life for, and then there's this little voice within, right? It's like, are you really doing it for you, or are you doing it for someone else? Yeah. And that's a tough one, I reckon.
It is a tough one. And it's really interesting. What I encourage people to think about that is they say they're stuck, but are you stuck?
Yeah.
That's your choice right now. And instead of looking at it that way, that you're stuck, this is what you've chosen to do right now. Hop on and enjoy the journey.
Yeah, it's
you're
true.
Not stuck. If finances are your problem, well, put a plan in place to clear that up. And you can go later, but you're not stuck.
That's so good.
It's how we think about, what's the old expression? Was it glass half empty or half full, right?
It's how we see it at that point of time. I love your reframes that you just said just now. You're not stuck.
You're not. If you choose to believe you're stuck, that's fine also. It's your life. I always say to people, you can choose to be as miserable as you like. It's your life. Go ahead. It's not the way I'm planning on living.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I love that. So I've got to ask you this, right? If you had a chance to do any of this all over again, would you do anything differently?
I would do it all again. I would do it all again and again and again. Would I do anything different? I'm not sure. I think maybe in the early years as a single parent, I think I wouldn't have stressed so much. I would, I had a mediocre job, and I was going back to university, and I was doing a lot of things to improve myself, but my resources were limited, and I think I would have not stressed about that so much. It didn't really matter. It turned out just great, right? Yeah, I put myself under a bit of pressure that I didn't have to,
Got it.
for sure. I think we all have habits. That's one of mine. It's not a very good habit, but it still is there sometimes. It's okay.
Yeah, I hear you. I have mine too.
Yeah.
There are younger coaches that come up to me and say, how is that couple of early years, right? What do I do? Do I have to get this done and that done? And especially these days, right? You've got so much options, many more than when we started, I guess. And when you started, which was earlier than me.
Coaching
So,
is a different profession now, very different.
yeah. But what would you say to these young coaches coming in?
I still work with young coaches here in Oman and across the EMEA. And the thing I always tell them is believe in yourself. Believe in yourself and share your gifts with the world, because they have gifts. You can't keep it to yourself. You've got to share that. And it sounds simple. It's not. But if you can remember what you're doing is sharing your gifts with the world that needs that gift.
Yeah.
Then all those questions the answers come easier. But doubting, should I do this? Should I do that? That constant guessing and juggling back and forth. Stop it. Stop it. Believe in yourself. Make a choice. See what happens. Make another choice. See what happens.
You just make it sound so simple and so possible, Benita. Can I say that? It's like, it's okay. Dust yourself up. Make another choice. It's all right.
Those people who don't fall down, Mel, they aren't doing anything. They don't fall down.
I'm learning something. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, right? What are the lessons for those who fall down so many times? Right? I'm sure there's many as well.
There's lots of people who try over and over and over again. I mean, there's lots of really famous stories about people who are famous who have failed many times and just kept at it. I think the guy who made, it sounds like a funny example, the guy who made the Kentucky Fried Chicken,
Colonel Sanders. There you go. I was thinking about him as well.
He went bankrupt something like 52 times or something, and I thought, oh, wow, that's perseverance. Good for him.
I would have called him something else, but yeah, you're right.
Well, he was very successful in the end. But do people stay long enough? It's a hard decision, and it's a personal decision. No one can make it for you except you. But he fell down and fell down and fell down and got up and got up and got up.
I'm curious, right? Is there a time where you say enough is enough? Because could it be that this person maybe was not called to be a coach, or I don't know.
Yeah, Mel, I think that's perfect what you're saying. It's a calling. And as long as we hear that, as long as we hear that and have that inner drive and that inner passion to get up again, then it's not time to quit.
Yeah.
Right? But when you've lost interest and you don't care, something you don't care, but you're just, that coaching thing, forget it. It's time to quit.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be working with our clients to make the world a better place. You can't walk into that going, who cares? Right?
Yeah.
You're not helping yourself. You're not helping them. You're not helping their communities, their families, their worlds. Yeah. So why are you doing it? When you lose that passion, then it's time to stop. I don't think it's giving up. I think it's just saying, okay, something else. The passion isn't here.
Got it. I love that. And perhaps for the ones that have tried and have been okay in the results that they're getting, what would be your encouragement to them to enhance?
Again, I would recommend for people to work with the coach. I mean, people are always surprised when I say this, but I have a coach. I still have a coach. I've had a coach for not quite 30 years, but pretty close. And that's for me, that's such a great, I'm going to call it a tool. It's just a way for me to make my life easier. And I'm all in for making my life easier. So, the insights are amazing. And so I would always advise people to get a coach, a professional coach.
Got it. I'm just wanting to also get clarity, right? Because there are obviously many types of coaches these days, right? There is the business side of things. There could be someone to help you in the skill set of coaching. So that could be a mentor coach, for example. And then, we also have coach supervisors, right? Could you kind of elaborate on the differences?
I do all of them. So
Okay.
I'm a coach. I work with clients, so one-to-one.
Yeah.
I'm an executive coach and work with senior professionals in helping them to get clarity around what their contribution to their organizations and to their worlds is from a coaching perspective.
Yeah.
I mentor coaches wanting to get a credential. So that's around the core competencies and code of ethics that they must know and must be able to execute at different levels depending on what level of credential they're applying. So I mentor coaches around the core competencies and the code of ethics.
Yep.
And I'm also an accredited supervisor. So I supervise coaches mostly across different parts of Europe. And I mostly work with team coaches because their coaching is very, very complex. But a supervisor works with the coach, and it's about who the coach is. So it's about improving your practice. And of course, I have a supervisor also because I think that's a really important tool for me to use to improve my work. But supervision is not about the tasks. It's not about the competencies or the ethics. It's about who you are and what stops you as a coach. We all have clients that trigger us.
Yeah.
You're like, is guy ever going to learn anything? And that's not the client's problem, by the way. That's why I say our clients are our teachers. That's the coach's problem. And it's interesting. I find it absolutely fascinating to work with that supervision modality. Again, people are absolutely fascinating.
Thank you. You brought a lot of clarity. I'm sure that everyone listening to this episode will really benefit from the differences that you just mentioned and the uniqueness of each of these coaches and roles. Beautiful.
Yes, thank you. You can tell, Mel, that I'm still passionate about coaching after all these years.
Yes. After all these years,
it has changed so much. You alluded to that earlier. This profession has changed so much from when I first started coaching. And I find that to be quite a fascinating journey also.
And hence we segue nicely into the next question. I'm sure you know. It's about the future. What do you think, Benita? What is the future looking like?
Coaching is this big open space. I think what will happen is it will become more differentiated. And by that, I mean, coaches will specialize more instead of just being general. When I first started coaching, the coach was a coach. That's all you did, coach. You didn't call yourself a business coach or an executive coach or a team coach or a mentor coach. Everybody coached. That's what you did. But now we're seeing specialties. Coaches are not only have coaching competencies, but they have specialties. And that's my area that I love to work in, and that's where I contribute the best. So, and I think we'll see more and more of that as this profession. Coaching is a pretty new profession.
Yeah.
It's I think ICF is celebrating the 25th year this year. That's a pretty much being a baby in a baby industry.
Yeah.
And I think it's just got its legs now, and it's starting to form, to get some adolescent stages, I'll say. And people may not agree with me about that, but I think we're starting to see some definition about what is a coach, what do coaches do, what's my area of specialty. And I think we're starting also I think the future will see some different ways of delivering coaching. It was fascinating with the COVID, because everybody started coaching on Zoom, and some people even started coaching on the phone. And that just made me laugh, because when I started coaching, that's the only kind of coaching we did was on the phone. There was no Zoom.
We're coming back one circle, back to the phones.
Was that the phone? Yeah. So I think we'll see, delivery combining different modalities, also in-person, Zoom, email, short sessions, long sessions. Some coaches will work with on-demand coaching. But this is a little secret that I'll reveal about Thomas Leonard, who was considered the father of the coaching industry. I can remember many, many years ago being on a call with Thomas, and he said, "I have a confession to make." Because what he said was, no, you're contracting. We didn't call it contracting then, but your contracting and coaching is 2 sessions a month, 1 hour each for 12 months. And that was the formula, period. Okay. On this call, he goes, "Well, I have a confession to make. I do on-demand coaching." And we're like, yeah. And it was like,
the cardinal rule, you broke it.
Yes. And it was his rule.
Ooh, okay.
So interesting, and I think we'll see more of that evolution. So it will become more it will become more crafted to the client's needs.
Oh, that's so good.
That's how I see the future. It is a very client-driven business already. Yeah. But I think we'll see it differentiate and become even more customized to that client.
And I've heard many schools of thoughts on this, right? And of course, probably where I'm at with that, and same with you, which we coaches talk about professionalism, ethics, excellence of what we do in our craft, right? And then there are some that says, why do we need to be a part of this group that regulates us, What do you say to that?
I say you don't have to.
Free choice again. There we go.
It's your profession. It's your reputation. I would not go to a doctor who doesn't have a certificate. I wouldn't get on a plane.
Oh yeah.
So many things I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't work with a coach who isn't credentialed and doesn't respect their profession enough to do that. But if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Doesn't mean you aren't a good coach, but to me, it says something about your credibility. That's all. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. I've done half the time of what you have done. So mine's been 15 years, right? And
nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I joined the ICF immediately once I graduated, right? And I've been a member since, working my way. Perhaps this is a little bit like the very driven person that I am, right? Oh, ACC first, and then after that, the PCC, and then, got to get to MCC, you know what I mean? And then when I've reached there, right, it's like, oh,
now what?
There's no Grandmaster CC up there.
Supervision.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I realize that it starts again and again and again. It's like that constant learning.
Yeah.
That I go through every day.
Yes. And that's the beauty of professional coaching. Because we continually learn, we continually grow. And I think it's a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a personality or a habit of coaches, but coaches are lifelong learners. Every coach I know, it's like we're addicted to learning.
Oh yeah. Gimme. I want some more.
It's really interesting. And I don't know what that is, but I'm making a generalization, I realize that, but it seems to be true amongst most of the coaches I know.
Yeah. Mm. I guess in a way, for me, I guess it's not sitting on your laurels and just say I've arrived, right? And or there's nothing else I can learn. There is so much you can learn from exactly what you said, from your client to anyone around you. I learned best, I think, through my coaching journey of 15 years of how I worked with my children growing up.
Oh, nice. Yes.
And I thought they were my coaches, right? They were my supervisors, right? Because they knew when I was coaching them, they knew I was just putting it on, was not, really, I wanted to do it from my heart. And there's so many layers of that. And
It's really interesting. I do some training, some coaching skills for managers. And the first thing people always say is, I'm going to take this home and try it out on my spouse. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend that. They always go, yeah, but it'd be great. I'm like, no, I wouldn't recommend it. And every time they go home and they try it, and they come back and they say, you're right, it didn't work. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing. It's not about just going there to fix something. It's not about that, because the whole reflection reflects it back and deflects it back to us. It begins with us, and it
Yes.
always will, right? And in all that we do, even as coaches, it starts with how is our presence even with ourselves.
Yeah. How do we show up?
Yeah.
And coaching your spouse, you have a different relationship with your spouse than you do with a client.
It's
You
true
need to
that.
understand that.
A different sort of contracting there.
Yes. I think it's one of the things I think is really interesting too, and we don't perhaps pay as much attention to it in coaching, but I think context is really important.
Yeah.
I often say context is king.
Mm.
Because I really, as a coach, I really have to be present and listening and aware to understand your context.
That's right.
I know sometimes I know my context. It's hardly enough for me to know my context, never mind yours.
Yeah.
That we have to really be able to bridge between to get the other person's context. And so what's the relationship?
So good. Just when you were saying it, I had this thought. It's like, how curious are you about your coachee's context?
Yeah.
Versus being so curious that you're asking the question based on your context.
Yes.
Right? It's like, oh, thank you. That just came.
And working in different cultures, really helps you understand that. That's an amazing journey in itself, is working across different cultures. It's fascinating.
How has that been, right? Because as you say, you were from Canada, you came into this new culture. Of course, you lived through these years in this culture. Does culture play a big part on the impact of coaching?
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. And when I say our clients are our teachers, work in another culture and you will learn so much about yourself, and you will learn how you think, how you process information, how you make decisions that you weren't even aware of before, because everybody you knew made their decisions that way.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you're in a different culture, and people, it's a different context.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, just So you learn so much about yourself. That's an amazing journey. I think you become more open. I'm trying to think of his name. The who wrote the book, the Theory You.
Otto Schong.
Talks about three things: open heart, open mind, and open will.
Yeah.
And if you have those three things, working with another culture, you will be on an amazing journey. You will learn so much, but you have to have open heart, open mind, open will.
So true.
Otherwise, you're just, well, we don't do that in my country. Okay, good. That's great. Right?
We don't use our hands to eat
Yeah,
in our country.
that's right. Yeah, I had an interesting experience with a client one time. Again, it was an executive team, and we were in a hotel, so we had a room, and then we went for lunch in the restaurant, and it was really fascinating. What a sweet, gentle soul this man was. And he said, Benita, is it okay with you? Do you mind if I eat with my hands? And I just said, no, I don't mind if you eat with your hands if you don't mind if I eat with a fork. And it, that's context, that's culture.
Yeah.
Because he's probably like, what is she doing? Like, really, what do you need a fork for, lady? Right? Really?
And there was understanding and respect in the way it was seeking permission for that. And that's beautiful.
Yes, the respect, if you have an open heart, an open mind, and open will, you will respect others. They aren't the same as you. And thankfully, as I said before, thankfully, they're not the same as me, right? Because this is how I learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that opens up the worlds.
So beautiful. We're coming up to the end of the interview, and I always ask this question before we end. What is that powerful question from you, master coach of 30 years?
Yeah, the powerful question. And I think it's different for everybody, by the way.
Of course.
So I'm going to share what was for me a really powerful question and really changed the way I showed up in the world. So this is my question, and I hope it works for some other people too. But the question I always ask myself now is, what would I do if I was 10 times bolder? What would I do? And it's a really powerful question for me. For some people, it's not powerful. They're like, well, I know what I do. But for me, it is. So I would invite for people that resonates with to really think about it and answer the question for the rest of your life.
That's so beautiful. And that's so brave. One of the things that I believe in strongly in my context is also that boldness, that bravery to step out. And that has just 10x my experience. Thank you, Benita.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And Mel, I'm curious though, what's your powerful question?
Oh,
what's the question you ask yourself?
That is so nice of you.
It's hard to pick one, I know. It's really difficult to pick one.
Yeah. And what I'm sensing right now is a simple one. Who do I really want to be?
Nice.
Simple.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a beautiful question.
There are so many, isn't it? And it just resonates with each one of us, and that one resonates very deeply within me.
Yeah.
I ask myself that quite a bit. So, Benita, this is the time where I invite you to share with us your media handles, different ways of how people can come in contact with you.
You can find me by my name, of course, on LinkedIn, Benita Stafford-Smith. And you can find me on blsscoaching.com. And there's some information about some of the things I do. And you can also find out information from me as I manage a coaching practice for a small HR consultancy here called Takatif. And if you can say it, that's great. It's a fabulous job. So you can also find information from me from their website, which is takatif.com.
I should say thank you. It's been a pleasure to host you, Benita. You've made it so enjoyable. It's like that ride that I was talking to you about. It just keeps on going higher. I'm just waiting for the dip, right? It's like, come on. Really, really. You are truly a blessing. And I
That's
just want to
very
say that. Continue to be that blessing, not just in Oman, but in all those places and people's hearts that you will touch. And with that, guys, we've got to go. This has been the 100 Master Coaches show. Today, of course, with Benita from Oman. And this is Coach Mel from Melbourne signing off, saying, catch you on the next one. Bye for now.
You have been watching the 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Brought to you by Catalyst Coach. www.catalystcoach.live. We will be right back with our next Master Coach on the 100 Master Coaches series.